Good morning and welcome to the weekly reminders. My name is Lauren Hall. I'm a program coordinator for Remind as well as a psychotherapist. So I hope you guys are enjoying the series and ready for today's topic. So call it all my parents, all right? The struggle is real. Balancing work life and parenting. Who can relate, right? Parenting is one of the hardest, most rewarding experiences, right? But it has a relentless sense of balancing, right? Trying to compartmentalize everything while not allowing things to spill over into the next thing, and knowing that at some point, someone or something will be sacrificed, right? Whether it be, things that you want to do or even yourself. And typically as parents, it is ourselves. Ourselves are often neglected, right? So I think there's always a struggle with the concept of achieving balance in our lives. And for many of us, it means getting all things done, right? However, in the past few months, there has been a shift, a complexity, right? More intensity to the role of being a parent. So getting all things done is more complex, and it's done in all aspects within the safety of the home, right? All aspects of work, taking care of the family, and OMG, homeschooling the kids. Oh my gosh, right? So I'm sure some of you parents, the hours, the days seem long and draining as the mounds of responsibilities pile up. A sense of balance can seem unreachable or exhausting, right? Well, whether you are a single parent, co-parenting, a couple, or have a blended family, know that you are appreciated and you're doing the best that you can given the circumstances. So today I wanted to just explore some of the challenges that you guys may be facing as parents, and give you a tip about how to attain a sense of balance. All right. So I must be honest. I am not a parent. So my perspective is clearly based on my clinical experience as a therapist, right? As well as some time with my little cousins and my goddaughter and spending time with them over a short period of time. So it's nowhere near a 24/7, 365 parental experience that most of you may have. So in preparing for this segment, I wanted to make sure that I got real feedback from real parents, right? I have witnessed and watched some of my friends and relatives go through this art of parenting with such ease and dedication and strength and courage despite the hiccups along the way. So I wanted to gain some insight. I wanted to gain real life, hands-on parental insight and perspective. So for that, I sought out feedback from 6 of my closest friends and relatives to get some insight, to be able to tackle some of these challenges and really understand what it is that you're going through as a parent during these times, right? And so to give you some context of the parental structure, I surveyed or interviewed 3 single moms, a single dad, and 2 couples. So we talked a little bit about some of the challenges, whether it be childcare, having the responsibility to provide your child with educational structure and programming, shared responsibilities, meeting work expectations, trying to create some sense of normalcy, etc., and family life, right? So we had this discussion, and it was very insightful because I was able to see not only are parents feeling the same, but we're all experiencing them somewhat differently. And so I was able to eliminate the challenges in 3 segments. So I have 3 different challenges that we're going to discuss in terms of what you may be facing. Okay. So one of the biggest challenges and feedback that I got was the responsibility of providing educational programming, right? So as a parent already, you are a teacher. You are a teacher of life, right? You are creating a foundation for your children by instilling morals and values and so forth. So parenting is teaching, and you are a teacher. But when it comes to educational development, some of those things, most parents rely heavily on the school system and teachers to assist with that. And so during this time of homeschooling and quarantine and school closures, being a parent and being responsible for providing your child with educational programming can be overwhelming, intimidating, and more stress-provoking. So under that umbrella of the responsibilities of providing educational structure, there are 3 barriers that we discussed or that I got feedback on. And so one of those is having the tools to access the educational materials that your child needs. Now, I know some schools have portals, but what about those kids or parents who don't have internet access, don't have computers, right? That is a big barrier in terms of how do you meet how do you meet those educational needs for your children? So according to HISD website, as well as ABC 13, more than 180,000 households within HISD do not have computers. That's unbelievable. 38% of HISD students don't have access to high-speed internet. So if you take those numbers and kind of put into perspective the struggle for your children to try to gain the educational knowledge during the midst of quarantine, the stress and pressure on the parents is unbelievable, right? So I know luckily some schools are providing school packets for those who don't have the necessary tools or access to the school portal. But that makes a big point and adds to that anxiety of providing that educational resource for your children. Another barrier is the pressure to ensure that your child receives, or maintains that educational level. And also being faced with maybe some of your child's difficulties, educational difficulties or cognitive abilities that may not be up to your expectations. And when I talk about that, I think about those children who have special needs and requires accommodations or have difficulties learning. So as a parent, not only are you managing work and family life, but if you have to provide an educational structure to your child that has special needs, that needs one-on-one attention, that's going to pull it's going to be a lot of strain and a lot of stress to be able to accommodate that. And it's a lot of pressure. Another barrier in terms of providing educational programming for your child is the educational shame due to your own lack of education. I know that for some parents, whatever their circumstances are or were, right? Maybe you were required to drop out of school, or you had to work, or it was some type of barrier in which you could not obtain all of your education, and this new age education is totally different from what you may know as a kid. So, being able to understand the educational schoolwork of your child and being faced with the insecurities or shame, right, because of your lack of education or your struggle to understand your child's homework assignments. That can be really difficult to deal with as a parent, and you're faced with that in the midst, on top of being pressured to provide this educational resource to your child. So when I think about those different barriers, that can create an overwhelming and heightened sense of anxiety and pressure to try to balance as you provide that educational programming for your child. And also a quick note, according to Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation, 1 in 4 adults do not have a high school diploma or GED, which kind of puts things into perspective as well, in terms of some parents may not, have finished education or have an educational level, thus feeling conflicted or having difficulties being able to articulate or teach their child some of the things that they're required to learn. So that can be a lot of pressure as a parent to deal with that. All right. So on top of the challenge of providing educational structure for your child, it's also a challenge to meet work demands, especially during this time where, you know, it's high priority to make sure you meet those expectations due to the fear of being laid off. Or, you know, work displacement, right? Participating in Zoom conferences. How many of you have tried to participate in a Zoom conference and you have an energetic kid that comes up in the midst of their meeting, right? It's difficult. It's funny because I was reading an article in Psychology Today, and it said that as a mom, you're constantly interruptible and constantly correctable. So I think that may be a fair statement, you know. So the demands of work, trying to keep that up, trying to maintain that, as well as teach your child, make sure they're following the curriculum and completing the assignments, on top of probably you having to understand the assignments to give instructions, is a challenge. Another big challenge was childcare. I know for some of my friends, they, you know, express that if they do have to put their child at a daycare or nursery, the increase in fees, right? Or the potential health risks of, you know, putting their child in a daycare knowing that there are other children, and just finding creative ways to entertain your children, right? Because, you know, your children, they, you know, if they are idle, they're constantly in and back, in and out, in and out. And so there is a struggle to try to keep them entertained at the same time that you're trying to get things done. So all of these challenges puts what you're facing into perspective, and it's definitely a hard task. It's a hard task. And like I said earlier, parenting is a hard experience, but it's even harder now during this time of pandemic. One of the main challenges in interviewing a couple was the difficulty in meeting each other's needs. With the demands, you're stretched so thin. By the time the end of the day, you don't have anything left to give. It's burnout, and then you become each other's soundboard. So the difficulties of maintaining a relationship in the midst of balancing a family life, parenting, all of those aspects of being a parent is definitely hard to balance, right? So in talking with my friends about this issue or about their struggles, it made me think about, well, what are they feeling? What emotion would you put to your experience of these challenges day in and day out, where you're trying to create some sense of stability, right? You're trying to create some sense of normality, but it's hard because you don't know when this is going to end. You know, you try to keep pushing and pushing, and it gets difficult. And so most of my friends had struggled a lot with identifying a specific emotion, right? And when they had to look and really dig deep, a lot of them said that the feeling or the emotion they would describe about their experience as parenting is a numbing feeling, right? So as a mom or as a parent, it's as if you don't have time to feel. Can anybody relate to that? You know, and I took that in, and I said, wow, even as a parent, you know, as much adversity and resiliency as you put forth and get through those humps and challenges, the feeling is numb because you don't have time to feel. All you have time to do is do. And so with that, you know, it led me to really kind of think about how that could affect you as a parent. And when we think about creating a sense of balance, right? Yes, it's important to create schedules and routines and boundaries, but it can also be a detriment, right? By not allowing yourself to feel, then in a sense, you tend to normalize what's going on, right? And hello, it's not normal, right? This is not our normal. And so, yes, you are committed to being a parent, and all that entails. However, you cannot lose sight of self. A pandemic is considered a crisis, and it can be traumatizing, both indirectly or directly. And so traumatic events can impair our ability to cope, which could lead to mental health issues and heightened sense of anxiety, heightened sense of depression, right? And to be honest, because this pandemic is impacting our society, right? It's a collective trauma because we're all experiencing it, right? So it's even more of an asset and essential for us to make sure that we're supporting ourselves. And so in thinking about how to provide a sense of encouragement and hope and ease for you parents out there that are tackling these challenges head on, yes, creating a routine is perfect. Being flexible, setting boundaries, and so forth. All of those things are great. But I think the main thing and something that is really essential is practicing self-compassion. It's so essential. What does that mean? Self-compassion. It's giving yourself permission to feel, right? Yes, you are a parent, but you're also a human being that has feelings, that have thoughts. And so being a parent is also, is already stressful. So being hard on yourself does not do any good, right? It can actually, trigger more anxiety, more depression. And so giving yourself a chance to cut yourself some slack, right? Being able to practice nurturing yourself, right? Taking a moment to shift your perspective from constantly doing to simply being. Right? So what that means is I can remember as a kid, I used to see my mom wake up at 5 o'clock every morning, right? And I never knew why. I just thought she was an early bird. But as I got older, I started to ask my mom, well, why do you get up so early? And she said, well, when I get up early at 5 o'clock in the morning, I give myself time to be, to meditate, to pray, to just reflect. And that makes so much sense. And I know even in the midst of all this, and you're like, oh my God, well, I don't have time to prioritize myself, but you have to take care of self. You have to take care of self to be able to take care of everybody else, right? And so the benefits of self-compassion is increased motivation, fostering resiliency, enhancing self-worth, right? And also reducing that anxiety, that depression, just being able to give yourself that extra push when you need it the most, right? Because if I'm able to have that time to just be and say, you know what, I did my best today, right? And I wake up again and I say, you know what, I'm just going to do my best, do what I can, utilize my resources, take it easy, be lax about myself, then that will give me a sense of hope and just a motivation just to push forward. And so I encourage you all today to make sure that even in the midst of what we're going through and the difficulties of the challenges that you're tackling, you are appreciated, you're doing your best, and you have to continue to do your best, but making sure you include yourself in the circle of care so that you are able to be equipped to tackle these challenges head on. And so I encourage you today to practice self-compassion, give yourself a break, be easy on yourself, allow yourself to feel, and everything will follow. No, it's not easy. Yes, we don't know what and how long, tackling these challenges will be, but I guarantee you every day that you are able to allow yourself to feel and be, and giving yourself leeway and some slack to know that it's okay in the moment, then it will encourage you to keep pushing throughout this time. So thank you. I want to hear from you. Please comment. Tell me some of your challenges. Practice some self-compassion. If you have any feedback, feel free to comment. Thank you again for tuning in. Stay safe and stay connected. Join us on Monday for 10 things you can control to support your mental health. Also, make sure you visit our website at remindsupport.org. Stay informed, stay in tune, and stay safe. Have a great weekend. Have a good day.